this video, I'm going to highlight how loads and demands are modeled in Synergi and discuss which options might be best for you to use for your use cases. So in this video, we'll discuss loads, demands, diurnal curves, and profiles. So demands are on the feeder meter typically, and recently we've added the option to support hourly profiles. So if you have hourly data coming in from your substation, either from Pi or other systems, we can load those in and create hourly profiles on the substation feeder meter. Otherwise, many of our clients just simply use the peak hour. We also support distributed loads, which are on the section model, and I'll open up Synergi and show you that. Spot loads are also on the section. We support project loads, which are more speculative loads, maybe new construction, new development that you know about, and you want to track these loads by name. We also support areas of interest, which are spatial polygons that you can assign either an absolute load value, or you can also assign a load growth. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about customer zones, customer classes, and profiles for the use of doing hourly based modeling. So let's jump over to Synergi and I'll show you some examples of these. Okay, now I'm over in Synergi. I've got my sample model loaded up here. If I go into the Map tab and go into Model and Facilities, you can see that my meters are located here. If I click on meters, then below this in the side panel I can see that all of my meters are listed here. And from here I can see that I've named them by substation. So if I wanted to find this meter, and I can expand this window out, by the way. In fact, you can see the biphase amps and also kVAR biphase. And if I expand this column, now I can see the full name. So if I wanted to find this big spring meter, I want to see where this is on the map, I can right click and zoom to, and it pulls up the meter in the middle of the screen. So now if I double click this, I can see that this is my big spring feeder. I can see my biphase kW, kVAR. I can add a time step here. If there is a growth curve, I can assign a growth curve to this, so you can pick a growth curve that's coming out of the warehouse. If there are profiles that are associated with this meter, I can add those here, select a profile. Some meters may be modeling distributed generation targets. If you click on the DisGen area, we'll open up a window where you can put in these targets and then you can make them active. The general information about the meter is located here in the meter menu item, such as the name, the section that's associated with, the feeder that's associated with, energize year, install year, retire year as well. The input data for feeder meters, or any meter for that matter, could be manually collected and entered. You may have integration methods, or if you're interested in integration methods, you can talk to our consulting team about setting up a process to bring this data in automatically. Maybe you have this data in Pi or an MV90 system or some other system that you could collect this information. Another way to bring this data in is by using subsets. In the Model tab ribbon, if you click on Subsets, click on Load, you may have a subset that you can bring in. So if you pull this drop down, you can see that meters is an option. So you can actually save subsets and bring those in as part of your model build and part of your script. In Synergi, my distributed loads are modeled on the section editor, and they represent those in-use meters, customer meters, residential, commercial meters. So if I click on a line section, I have my section editor up. Now I can see under my load-dist is where my distributed load information is contained. If there's a description for this, we can model it here or leave that blank. So I have my biphase, kW, kVAR, connected kVA, kWh, customers, modeled here. So I see that I have 20 customers and 100 connected kVA. IZPQ factors are modeled here. And in this case, I'm using a customer zone, and it's called urban commercial. So if I click on this little arrow, I can bring up the curve that's associated with this. So in this case, I have the 2-day types. I have weekday, weekend, by month. So if I scroll down my months, I can see the different profiles hourly, by weekend, or by weekday. And I notice that my customer zone profile is made up with two class types. Retail commercial 70% and 30% industrial. If I wanted to see what my retail commercial class profile looks like, again, I can click on this arrow and I'll have a very similar chart that shows me my monthly, hourly values that's associated with this zone. As an option, you can bring in individual customer values or individual transformers. In this case, in this model, I don't have those transformers, but if there were multiple transformers associated with this section and the load, they would show up here and I would have the details of those transformers as well as the customers. Spot loads are generally reserved for larger commercial industrial customers that you do not want to use load allocation on. In other words, you want to lock in these loads. So in the spot load section, this is where you would model these loads that you could bring in, again, from an MV90 system or other systems that you're tracking this information. Project loads allows you to add loads that are speculative in nature that you may want to track by name. So you can go into the project area. If you want to add a load, you can type a name in here, and you can add the energized year, add in the kW var, and if I click apply, now this will be part of my projects, and if I wanted to manage those by looking at a worksheet, can bring up my worksheet and I can see all of my projects that are associated with this model. Large customers are for modeling your very largest customers on your system, and they're unique in that they actually show up with a symbol on the map. So if I go into model and I click on facilities, I can scroll down to large customers and I can see that I have four large customers on this model. If I want to find those, again, I can right click and zoom to, and as you can see, there is a symbol associated with a large customer. If I click on the symbol, now I can bring up the details of this large customer, name, the section that's associated with, feeder that's associated with, energize year, install year, retire. One of the options that you need to be aware of is this checkbox for is on. If I go into the load section, I can see that this is off and everything is grayed out because my checkbox is not checked. Now that I've checked the is on checkbox, click apply. I go into the load section. I can turn this on and now I can edit the load values. So I have my per phase kW, kVAR values that are associated with this large customer. Similar to spot loads, large customers wouldn't be impacted by load allocation. Typically, these are locked in primary meter type customers. The last load type that I'm going to discuss is areas of interest or spatial polygons. And the first thing that you'll want to do is you want to open up the map settings, and you want to make sure that the show polygons options are turned on. So click on style, go down to show polygons and make sure that these are clicked. This way your polygons will actually show up on your map. Then the second thing you'll want to do is make sure that you're in the model year that you want to add the speculative load or spatial load to. So I am predicting that a new development is going to go in 2021. So I'm going to change my model to 2021. And I'm going to go over to the warehouse. The first option here is area of interest. I'm going to click this arrow and I'm going to add speculative load polygon. So you click on speculative load just left click and drag this over here to the model. I'm going to confirm. Now that I have my area of interest on the model, I want to reshape this so it includes these sections here in red, because this is where my development is going in. So I can right click on this, click reshape. Now I'm going to draw in my polygon, my new polygon. It's in this area here, and I'm just going to right click to finish. Now once I have that in place, I can double click on the polygon and I can go into the speculative load area and I can add my growth. Even though this is going to be developed in 2021, I'm not really going to see any load until 2022. I can add in my load. And click apply. Now that I've added my connected kVA in my following years after the construction, when I run a load flow, these years past 2021 will include these values.